The only thing we've looked at is the tank is owned by Eastern Propane. They would have to pull that tank out. They will not accept anybody else's fuel going into their tank, so we'd have to change the whole system.
Have to change this.
In other words, a new tank and a new distributor.
Thank you.
We looked at the possibility of heating with pellets, but it's a heck of a distance from where our pellet boilers are to heat that. I think the recommendation from a company was to have a separate pellet furnace at the jail if we wanted to go to pellets.
Representative Babson, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think Representative McConkey has a good idea. I've never heard it discussed. We always talk about the 30,000 1,000-gallon bomb we got out here. Why not investigate putting an 18,000 or another one down by the jail that may, in the long run, save us money? At least give us the opportunity to go out for quote and find out a competitive situation.
I know that we had, this is a light bulb in my head, that we had a subcommittee that delved into the propane. It was 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago. And I think, Representative Babson, you were on it because we had quite a discussion about whether we should keep it. That's before we got the big tank.
Right.
So I'm wondering if maybe as we go through the budget or we're thinking about it, we should pull that information back out and try and see what's going on.
What's the size of the tank?
We had the 18,000-gallon tank that we used behind the nursing home at one point.
I think our tank is 90,000. It sets out here.
Okay.
We had one at 30,000. It's set in back of the old nursing home.
Okay.
And we ended up selling that because it was cheaper to have one big tank.
Yeah.
We did own that 30,000-gallon tank. This one we don't.
Representative McConkey.
I just wanted to mention, Madam Chairman, thank you, that had this exact same discussion 2 or 3 months ago when I raised this question and asked how the county was buying, if they were buying at a rate plus rack price, and follow-up to that is there's been no follow-up since I've asked the question.
We did talk about this at a commissioners meeting. We had our accounts payable come in and present us with bills from Eastern Propane. They fluctuate from one delivery to another delivery, and I forget right offhand what we're paying per gallon on the average. I want to say $2.53, but I'm not correct on that.
Okay. Yes, Representative Umberger.
Yeah, I think what Representative McConkey is saying is that we all agree that the owner of the propane deliverer owns the tanks, but they provide the tanks not at a, it doesn't cost you something to have the tank there every month. That's all part of the deal. And so I think that what Representative McConkey is saying is, how about checking with some other propane dealers in the area to see what they would charge for propane for this particular complex. And I realize that we probably don't necessarily want to change contractors in the middle of the heating season, but it might be something to look forward to in the budget for next year, because there are propane people that will give you, projected costs for the future. So I just, I certainly understand where he's coming from, and that if we had done something maybe in the summer, we might have had a better or clearer understanding of where we stand, because every budget in the complex is affected by the propane fuel costs.
We did have looked at Rhymes to see if they could do a better deal, and it was not cost effective.
Okay, Representative Algren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We don't have a long schedule here of the heating costs going back very far, but it just seems like you know, that it's going up more than the actual percentage of the fuel. And I think I mentioned it, did we take a close look at just making sure that from a maintenance perspective that we weren't having some sort of issue? I mean, did you know, like, look at the number of gallons that we actually used and compare that to past years, you know, with the temperature, you know, I know the temperature also is part of it, you know, but did that analyzation take place? Because it just seems like it's really going up a lot. From 2009 to now, it's doubled, so.
Representative Babson.
Thank you. Representative Algren, when the subcommittee worked on this, we are only going to be over, slightly over $150,000 for fuel, 156 somewhere in there. So you really should be looking at, and it has gone up, but you should be looking at 2009 versus the adopted budget of last year, because we added in the extra 36,000, not knowing what was going to happen with the cost of fuel in this coming year. So your actual costs are somewhere around 156,000 or 160,000. It is substantially up, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. Yes,
but as follow-up, Representative Babson, the commissioners are asking us to appropriate $187,000 in the new budget.
That's what we asked them to.
It seems like
appropriate.
It just seems to me that differential in number must be attributed to more than, seems at least, you know, on the face, that it has to be attributed to more than just the increase in the price in oil.
I believe Superintendent Johnson came in with a figure of 212,000.
Yes.
Yes, Representative Babson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Algren, the request that we raised to 125,000, 150 last year, was they'd come in and ask for 125,000. So it went up at least, it's gone up a lot more than that, because we've exceeded 150,000, and we just put that in so we wouldn't have to come back at the middle of the year and ask for more money, because we didn't feel the cost of fuel was going to go down.
I think what I would like the subcommittee to do is that I would like you to do do some history on the heating expense at the jail and look at it and see what back in 2009, 2008, what was the price of what we were doing, the gallonage that we used, and see where this extra income where this increase comes from. I'm sure that the jail has not opened up one wall and let the cold air in. What we need to do is figure out if there is something that is inefficient, or is this just what we have all done and realized when we're doing our oil, propane, heat, electric, or whatever. And I think that we could do that. I think Kathy Gary could probably help with getting some of the history.
I think
in that.
we have that history.
Okay.
We've been, keeping track of it from year to year. Like 1 year the price was $1.19, and it fluctuates, and now it's at, double what it was 3 years ago. So
yeah, and I think that if we have that, then I think that would be good for all of the members. But for it to spearhead through the jail subcommittee would be a focus, so that we can have this discussion when we go to the jail again. Yes, Representative Umberto.
Yes, I believe that you can also obtain from the company that services you what they call degree days for the winters, and because that in fact makes a big difference in how much you use. So if our degree days have fluctuated between 2009 and 2011, then that could perhaps explain some of the usage. But if we don't,
would we like a history from 2009, or would you like to go back to it further than that? What would the committee?
It doesn't, I just think that we need to.
Probably more than 2 years is what I'm thinking
Right.
of. Maybe go back to 08, 07. Yes, Representative
Thank you, Representative Umberto, for maybe helping me clarify what I was discussing. Is typically speaking, your propane company will aid you in this analysis. They will look at, the average temperature in a given year and how many gallons you used, and just to see if perhaps we are having some sort of perhaps a maintenance issue where the heat's running longer than it should be in a certain area or something of that nature. Like that, I'm concerned that, there's something with the on button stuff or something, so to speak. And if that, so if we are suddenly using more than we should last year than we did 3 years ago with essentially the same jail with, of course, they adjust it for these other variables, it would give us an indication if maybe we have a maintenance issue that we should be, maybe taking a look at. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yes, Representative Flip.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, didn't we at one time do an analysis of the heating efficiency of the buildings, or not? Because that can be done, but I was just wondering.
That report? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we open the door and then you shut it to see whether the vacuum
that
is
was
in.
done to find out whether or not we had an efficient utilization of the heating.
That energy study?
It was
Yeah.
an energy study that was done, included our lights and other
Right.
things, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe
So
we'll-
maybe that has to be brought back in again, just
Yeah.
to refresh us.
And I would appreciate the jail. Who's the chair of the jail subcommittee? I'd represent that perhaps what we do is spearheaded, and Representative McConkey be sure that he gets his answers. Yes. Oh, Commissioner Solomon, thank you for coming. I just noticed you. I'm sorry. I hope you haven't been here too long, but welcome back.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chairman, I
She
would like
looks
to
rather
go
refreshed
into
for a
a
red hot
non-public
flight.
session regarding the jail with the superintendent.
Yes, would you like
At
to?
the end.
At the end, we will do that. You are requesting a non-public for, and we will do that at the end of our meeting. Okay?
I will also say that the subcommittee had heard an increase of roughly 10% in the jail budget. We worked with Superintendent Johnson, and it was down to 4.8% as it stands now. But I think after our meeting in non-public, we've got some things we need to do.
Representative McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notwithstanding the fact that we discussed the pellet boiler, we were talking about hooking into the existing one, and because of the distance, there would be a problem. But if we eliminate that distance, that's going to eliminate a great deal of cost relative to the new nursing home. And if we could get a grant like we did for the one for the new nursing home, and maybe even just a little bit smaller boiler, could we look into the possibility of putting another one down very close to the jail or right adjacent to the jail? Eliminate the cost of the piping and the rest of it, but save some money on fuel.
Yes, Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think the whole discussion and looking at what's going to save us so we can get to a number that's more level than what we have perhaps warrants the commissioners having some help and possibly another subcommittee. Commissioner Solomon and myself participated in a tour, and when we were at the Tilton School last month or so when we were there, and I asked the question how far you can push hot water before you lose efficiency. They're pushing hot water between the schools in excess of a half a mile without a loss of a degree. So technology changes rapidly, and I suggest that perhaps the commissioners have too much on their plate and that we should find a way to open up a discussion, and perhaps a few of us that have had experience in buying bulk heating oils and things, it really warrants a look at sooner than later.
Okay, so you were thinking that having it spearheaded under the jail is not the most efficient way to go?
I think if we can keep a discussion, focused as part of that, I think that would probably be fine.
Okay.
Or a separate discussion,
Yes,
whichever you
Commissioner.
choose.
One of the problems we may run into, and that is we have two different size boilers to cover the nursing home and the old nursing home, so that we don't run two big ones all the time. We run both of them during the wintertime, perhaps a smaller boiler in the summertime just for hot water.
Okay.
So if we decide to run pipes from there down to the jail, we may need a larger boiler.
Yes, but I think that if we spearhead this discussion, and Representative Babson, when you have a subcommittee, would you, is Representative McConkey on your subcommittee?
No.
Representative McConkey, would you like to be on the jail subcommittee?